So, here's the big question. Are we just a cosmic accident, a one in a trillion shot that happened to pay off? Or is there something more going on? A universe absolutely brimming with divine purpose. We're about to dive into two radically different answers to that ultimate question. Why are we even here?
Okay, so it all kicks off with this massive mystery. The fundamental forces of our universe, things like gravity, they're balanced on a knife's edge. I mean, if they were off by just a tiny fraction, you wouldn't have stars, you wouldn't have planets, and you definitely wouldn't have us. So how in the world do we get so lucky? This is what's known as the fine-tuning problem, and it has sent smart people down two very, very different roads.
So here's the game plan. First, we're going to unpack that fine-tuning problem. Then we'll explore the two big solutions on the table, the multiverse, which is all about pure chance, and a cosmos that's filled with purpose. We'll also have to tackle the super tricky dilemma of free will, see why your starting point in any argument is absolutely critical, and then we'll tie it all together.
Right, so we've got this universe that just seems way too perfect to be an accident. It demands some kind of explanation. And this has created this fundamental fork in the road of human thought, a split between human reason trying to figure it out on its own and what's claimed to be a totally different path, one that was revealed.
And this, right here, is the heart of it. One road leads to the multiverse, an idea born from human speculation, a way to explain away the need for any kind of designer. The other road, well, it claims to be a revealed reality from God himself, a cosmos where every single world has a divine purpose.
All right, let's dive into that first path. The multiverse isn't just something you see in comic book movies. It's a serious concept that came out of some very real head-scratchers in modern physics. It was offered up as a way to explain how we got here without having to bring a creator into the picture. So what is it, really? At its core, the multiverse idea is that our universe, well, it's nothing special. It's just one little bubble in a massive cosmic foam of countless other universes. And each one of those bubbles might have its own unique set of physical laws. We just happen to live in the one where the laws turned out just right for us to exist.
Now, this idea wasn't just pulled out of thin air. Scientists proposed it to solve some really tough problems. In the weird world of quantum mechanics, it helps explain why particles seem to be in many places at once. In cosmology, it could explain the crazy rapid expansion right after the Big Bang. But for our chat today, the big one is that it solves that fine-tuning problem. If you have infinite universes, one of them was bound to be perfect for life. No miracle needed.
And that really boils down to this one simple sentence. The multiverse makes our existence a statistical inevitability, not a purposeful creation. It basically fires the designer and hires the law of large numbers instead. It gets rid of the question why and just leaves us with, well, why not? Okay. Let's switch gears and look at the other side of the coin. This is the cosmology presented in our source, the one attributed to the revelations of Joseph Smith. And guess what? It also describes a massive creation with tons of worlds, but it starts from a totally different place. Turns out, this idea of multiple worlds, it's not just a modern physics thing. This verse from the writings of Joseph Smith describes a huge populated cosmos. But, and this is a really big but, there's a critical difference. And there it is. This whole vast creation isn't random. It's not just a collection of disconnected bubbles floating around. According to this view, all of these worlds are tied together by one single, overarching divine purpose, helping humanity progress and reach its ultimate potential. So, let's be super clear about the difference here. This isn't a multiverse of chance. It's a unified cosmos of purpose. We're talking about something just as infinitely vast, but it's an ordered, relational system. Think of it like a single divine family of worlds, all part of the same grand plan. Okay, but here's where things get tricky. Anytime you talk about a grand divine plan, you run smack into this ancient, thorny problem, a paradox that has challenged theologians for centuries. It's the tension between a God who knows everything and our ability to make our own free choices. Yeah, this is the big one. This has kept philosophers and theologians up at night for ages. If an all-knowing God already knows every single choice you're ever going to make, are you really choosing? Or are you just an actor playing out a script that's already been written? It's a huge challenge to the whole idea of a purposeful universe. The source material offers a really key distinction to solve this, the difference between predestination and foreordination. Predestination says the outcome is locked in, period.
But foreordination suggests that God's knowledge doesn't cause the outcome. It's kind of like a weather forecast, right? The meteorologist knows a storm is coming, but her knowing it doesn't make the storm happen. This view says God's perfect knowledge is like that. He sees the choices we will make, but he isn't the one forcing us to make them.
And this leads us to what the source material claims is the real heart of the matter. It argues that Joseph Smith's cosmology makes so much sense because it starts with the right foundation, a premise that they say was revealed, not just speculated about. This principle right here is the whole key. The idea is that logic is just a tool, and the truth of any logical system, doesn't matter if it's math, philosophy, or theology, depends completely on its starting assumptions. If your foundation is cracked, the whole building is going to be unstable, no matter how brilliantly you build it.
Okay, so this slide breaks it down visually. Look at path 1. According to the source, this is what happened when early Christian theologians started with ideas from Greek philosophy, like God has to be some abstract, formless essence. When they applied perfect logic to that starting point, they ended up with paradoxes, and they just called them mysteries. But path 2 shows what happens when you start with a different premise, a revealed one, like God has a body. Apply that same perfect logic, and you don't get a paradox. You get a coherent, understandable doctrine. This table really lays it out. On the left, you see these brilliant thinkers, Augustine, Aquinas, Calvin. These are heavy hitters. But look at their starting point, taken from Greek philosophy. For example, that God is timeless. According to the source, when they logically followed that idea, they hit a wall, an unsolvable paradox, and they had to label it a mystery. Now look at the column on the right. It shows how a different starting premise, one claimed from Revelation, is said to completely resolve each and every one of those paradoxes.
And this is where, according to the source, everything changed. Joseph Smith's claim of seeing God the Father and Jesus Christ as two distinct physical beings wasn't just a cool new vision, it was a brand new starting premise for all of theology. It was the key that they say finally unlocked all those ancient paradoxes.
So, let's bring it all home. We're left with two completely different, competing visions of our reality that have come out of this whole discussion, based on the source material we've been looking at. And here's the final choice, laid out side by side. On one hand, you have a cosmos of chance. It's born from human speculation, it explains our existence with probability, and at the end of the day, it removes any need for a designer. On the other hand, you have a cosmos of purpose. It's born from claimed revelation, it explains our existence through divine intent, and it reveals the work of a designer. And that leaves us with this one last question, which really gets to the heart of everything we've talked about. When we're staring into the face of the biggest mysteries of life, where does the real answer come from? Does it come from us, applying our logic to what we can see and measure? Or does it come from a truth revealed from somewhere beyond what we can see? The choice between those two paths really defines our place in the entire cosmos.